Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining me on this beautiful sunny day. It's just a great day out there. I hope you've had a chance to enjoy it. And if not, maybe later this afternoon. I want to thank each of you for planning on attending today. It's been great to see the response to our new way of doing things. It is so much fun to get together with you all at our various locations throughout York Region, but this is almost the second best thing. So I appreciate your time today. It is 1 o'clock, so I'd like to get started. With your permission, we're going to start by sharing with you the screen that I have prepared for you with what I hope you'll find to be some good information. It's not rocket science. I certainly don't claim for it to be, but I hope that what you see is kind of a comprehensive package. So just let's look at this together and we'll get started. Actually, we're going to start our slideshow at the beginning because that's a very good place to start. Thank you for joining me for the best renovations for return on investment. I have to just tell you by way of disclaimer that these are my opinions based on the more than 50 homes that we've sold and really trying to get a bead on today's market and especially on what buyers are looking for. Okay, so for those of you who have not yet met me, my name is Sharon Parenteau. I'm a real estate agent with Keller Williams, and when I joined them in 2016, I realized that who I really wanted to work with were people in my own neighborhood. I live in Richmond Hill near Hillcrest Mall, and I started knocking on doors, and the people who were living there had been there sometimes 30 or 40 years, and they really did want to downsize. Their home was now just being used 20 or 30% of it, but they just didn't know how to get from where they were to where they wanted to go. And so I really enjoy helping people find creative solutions to their individual situations. And we came up with a series of seminars that we were delivering to answer the questions that I just kept hearing over and over again. What should I do about my broadloom? What should I do about the kitchen? We haven't really done anything to the washrooms. How important are they? And over again, I thought, wow, the much more productive way, efficient way is to meet. And so we started organizing seminars, and our offerings are always free of charge. We never ask you for a commitment, or we never charge. We really just believe that the best policy is to come from contribution so that when the time is right, you can make an excellent decision and maybe you'll remember us. Okay, so my job here is I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm not trying to sell even my own services. I just really want to come to you with helpful information. Okay. So thank you. I'm going to try to keep control over my mouse today and not let it go all jiggly. So let's just get started with an order of events. Welcome to our seminar. Thank you for being here. We're going to cover off 3 reasons why you will consider making some improvements to your home. And then we're also going to start with kind of like a high-level discussion of what kinds of things will net you the highest profit when it comes time to resell. And then next week at our seminar, our webinar on Wednesday, we'll be dealing with some very specific and concrete examples of lots of before and afters, okay? So today we are establishing the framework of why I do believe that most properties need a little bit of work to get them ready for market. And we'll also have an opportunity to answer your questions, okay? So not every question can get answered if it's super specific, but we're going to try to make sure that you come away with an idea of where we're heading, okay? So without any further ado, let's get started with this. So the very first thing that I hear when people are considering selling their homes is what to do with the stuff. The extra stuff that is cluttering up the property, the possessions that are being stored, that's always issue number one. When I knock on somebody's door, they say, well, yeah, we'd like to sell, but have you seen our basement? So in our previous seminars, we talked about the Decluttering Battle Challenge. We've given you some really specific strategies for that. And now we're moving on to the next most frequently asked question. And that is whether or not you should renovate before you decide to sell. And if you're thinking of making a move in the next 6 to 12 months, there are some things that I'm going to recommend to you based on the needs of your buyers. That's always about the buyers. We want to make sure that we're delivering a product, and I know it's hard to think of your home as a product, but it is. We want to make sure that we're delivering a product that meets as many of the needs of today's young buyer. And I want you to hearken back to when you were a first-time buyer or a move-up buyer and you moved into your current residence. What were the things that were important to you? And what was it like to have young children in tow? All of these mindset issues are really what we're going to be dealing with today. So they're younger than we are. They are likely dual income, and they probably have a child or two in tow. So we're just going to set them as the avatar. If you've been on Facebook recently, everybody is setting up their personal profile avatars. Well, we're going to create a bit of an avatar here with our buyer so that you can understand what their mindset is, and it'll help you make good decisions. So your buyer is likely a move-up buyer. They've already purchased one property or possibly two. Maybe they started off in a condo and then they went into a townhouse or a semi, and now they're looking for that detached residence that they are going to spend the next 8 to 10 years in. That's statistically the average, 8 years between every move. And they want to take the equity they've acquired in their first purchase and leverage that to more space. Usually that's the motivation. What are their pain points? This is really important. You're thinking, well, what does this have to do with renovations? But it is important because you've got to think of their debt to income ratio. When you purchased the house 30 years ago, your income was this and your property was this. Interestingly, over the last 30 years, property values have tripled. Okay? Let that sink in. But incomes have not tripled. So that's the real affordability index problem that we're facing with move-up buyers. That your house every 10 years is doubling in price, but incomes certainly are not keeping pace with that, right? So let's talk about their level of debt. They are leveraged. They've got debt up to the eyeballs, and they're facing the problem of diminishing affordability. I'm going to suggest that almost all of the homes that I have sold in Richmond Hill, Aurora, Newmarket recently have been from people who were living further south and they're moving north to get better affordability. They want the house they want, and they're willing to travel north to achieve that. They're also extremely strapped for time. Never mind cash strapped, they're time strapped. 2-income family, mom and dad are both working, kids might be in daycare, and then there's all this programming that today's parents feel compelled to do. Soccer and ballet and swim class and, Kumon and everything under the sun, right? So they don't have a lot of time, and they're willing to trade time for money. If you don't believe me, then just look at the whole Uber economy that has sprung up, with people willing to pay a premium to have food delivered, meal kits brought into their house, Amazon Prime. They don't necessarily always shop for the best bargain. They are willing to sometimes pay a little bit more to have the convenience of an easy solution to their pain point. And what is driving them to be interested in your home in the first place? Well, there is this practical aspect that they've outgrown their current living accommodations. Maybe their 2-bedroom condo isn't going to be enough room for their growing family. They're also going after the same kind of drivers that you were when you were looking at your home. They're interested in the schools and the park and the quality of life that our neighborhoods afford. So even though we might be living in a more mature neighborhood, the price is attractive for the benefits that it brings in terms of that lifestyle consideration. So many people have values associated with owning a home, and it's part of their definition of the good life and what they envision for their children. A lot of move-up buyers make the decision to move out of their condo residence to a detached home when children come along, because it's part of their picture of what makes a good childhood for their children, right? So all the parks and the schools and all of that, that's going to draw them into our neighborhoods. And then it's just simply a matter of them finding a house that meets their overall criteria and they can afford. It's the affordability that is a little bit of the pinch point here. Okay, so now that we have a kind of working knowledge of who is going to be buying your home, let's think about how they buy. They don't buy houses the way you might have bought your current house. Maybe you actually went into a realtor's office and physically flipped through a book of listings until you found the one that was the right size, the right price, the right neighborhood. You didn't have really much information about it besides that it checked those boxes. And then you got in the car, you drove to the house, and your very first encounter with the house was live. But by that point, you'd already made some kind of decision in your mind, and you were looking to confirm that decision. It wasn't typical for you to see more than 7 or 8 houses, sometimes more, but most of the time, you had already pre-qualified them, and so you were really just going to see them as a confirmation. That is not the way home buyers buy today. They buy online first and foremost, and they're kind of spoiled for choice, right? That when they get onto the MLS and they see all the listings, they'll scroll through them and scroll through them, and it becomes almost like a pastime. And if your home doesn't meet the muster, it just gets swiped and they move on to the next one and the next one and the next one. So what you need to realize is that what you do now to prepare your home for sale is going to net dividends all the way down the sale process. The more you do now, and we're going to get into some specifics, but the more you do now, the better off you'll have in a result. And the way we measure a positive result in real estate is not just the price that you're going to achieve, but also the time on market. It's very disruptive to have a house for sale, right? Especially in these times. There's all kinds of safety precautions and protocols that we follow, but there's one thing that we can't change about selling a home. It's an inherently stressful process. So if we can minimize the time your house is on the market and we can maximize the price you achieve, then I think that's like the best of both worlds. It's a win-win situation. So the best results for real estate sales are going to come from 3 key items. 1 is your responsibility, 1 is my responsibility, and 1 is a joint responsibility. So everything to do with preparation, we know, is going to improve your sale price and also have people willing to look at it rather than swipe. My job on the other side of things is the promotion of the property, making sure that as many eyes as possible see your home when it's listed for sale. It's really a numbers game. If you think of all the homes that are currently listed in York region, there's just a tiny fraction that are going to meet the specific needs of the buyer. So of all the vast number of homes, it's going to get narrowed down, and the buyers are going to get narrowed down, both by how much they can afford and whether or not they're interested in your neighborhood, and whether or not your 3-bedroom is suitable when they really want a 4-bedroom. So if we can cast the net as wide as possible and make your home as appealing as possible to the largest possible audience, then we're going to just by nature have a better end result. Now, the second item there on the list is presentation. And this is where we join forces to make sure that the house really shows at its best. And this is going to be a combination of some of the things I recommend. And then most times we have to do a little bit of additional tweaking, and we call that staging. So it really is setting the stage for the best price possible. Okay, so your buyer has a specific thing that they are doing that is different now than it used to be, and we have to cater our message to suit that. Okay, so we really have to make sure your home presents well online, or it's just going to be passed over. So, like most things in life, there is a balancing truth to decide how much renovation to do to your property before trying to sell it. We don't want to go overboard. I think in all things moderation, including this issue of renovation. For the first reason is that tastes can be so personal that you could sink thousands of dollars into your home and create an aesthetic that actually turns people off, right? That's number two. And we've seen this. If you've ever been on one of the condo tours with me, we've seen properties that we know have been totally dolled up, but it's somebody's taste and it's not your taste. And you don't want to have to undo what's been done. So you just pass it along and you go to another property that is more to your keeping to your tastes. So if you have to raise the price of your home to compensate for all the money you've just sunk in, your house might not be competitive anymore. I just had this conversation this morning, and this gentleman and I had different opinions of the value of his property. You can guess that he thought it was worth more and I thought it was worth less. And he rattled off a list of things that he had done. And he felt like he should be able to charge more. But buyers are not as concerned about all of those touch points that he mentioned. What they're really driven by is the price. And when there's a house down the street for sale, why would they pay $60,000 or $70,000 more just because it's your house? Doesn't make sense. So that was a bitter truth for him to have to accept. So when buyers are so mortgaged to the teeth, your house has to stand in competition and represent a relatively good value. Or you have to have a really darn good reason why they pay a premium for your property compared to the one down the street. Okay? Now, on the flip side, I'm not going to suggest you do nothing unless you're willing to reduce the price because of these things. There are certain things that you should be doing because your young buyers are really cash strapped and they can't afford to do extensive renovations. And if they do have some money, there are things that they want to spend it on that are cosmetic, and they can do that themselves. But some basic foundational things really need to be addressed ahead of time. Because the name of the game, like I said, is making your home as broadly appealing as possible. And in a competitive market, like we saw today in my meeting, we want to make sure your property holds its own and that you're not making somebody else's house look like a good deal. Okay? So that's the balancing truth. In all things, moderation. And I want to just start with some basic considerations. And again, this is not rocket science. This is not genius school. But when you see kind of the comprehensive package, I hope you'll find it to be helpful. We're going to start with the low-hanging fruit. Before we go and drop a bundle on some new glitzy kitchen, let's just take care of the basics, shall we? And these are the things that statistically pay the best return on investment. Well, they're free, a lot of them. And if they do have a cost associated with them, it's only because I'm recommending them only because they really give you the best bang for the buck. Okay, so this isn't fun or glamorous, but it makes a huge difference in the presentability of the home. And I know we're busy people and we all live in nice, clean homes, but a deep clean is a really good investment of time and effort. Now, it's not the kind of cleaning that I do. This is my joke. It's the kind of cleaning that Svetlana does, you know, where we're doing things that don't get done on a regular weekly basis, like your exterior windows and the screens and the sills and the sashes that, you know, get the winter sludge on them. Everything that we can do to lighten and brighten your home is going to really help it to photograph well, to look good online. And when people actually come through the door, it gives an impression of being a well-maintained home. So we're even talking about baseboards and light switches and around, you know, everything like that, doorknobs, the back of bathroom doors. I don't know why they accumulate so much, but even light fixtures, cleaning of those. And these are all things you can be working on over the rainy days, over time. The grout and the caulking in the bathtub, it's almost every house I see needs to have the bathtub recalked. It's just, you know, it doesn't last forever. And we are talking about appliances inside and outside and underneath. Now, nobody's going to get down on their hands and knees and look under your fridge. I don't claim that, but we want to neutralize all aspects of the home, including even the home's characteristic smell. So we want it to be fresh and clean and smelling good, and just everything to add that sparkle. Here's one that lots of people overlook, and it's the front entrance. If you've got side lights, lots of times, you know, the windows on the side of the door, they get all kind of grungy, or cobwebs up in the light fixture, or pitted brass, or any of that kind of thing. Whatever you can do to set your house off on the right foot right from the get-go, super, super important. The screen door, all of that can have a thorough cleaning, and make sure that, first of all, like we said, it's neutralizing, and second of all, it looks and shows its best. So this is the next item that you may not have thought about. We're talking about depersonalizing. And I actually see this rule broken all the time on MLS. But then those are the properties that are hanging around and are not selling. So there's a cautionary tale there as well. We want your home as close as possible to look like a show home. We don't want any reminders that somebody actually lives there, because it makes people feel like they're intruding in your personal space, which I know that they technically are. But regardless, we want them to feel comfortable. We want them to stay as long as they need to stay to get a really good view of what your home is like, and not feel like they are trespassing. We want them to feel welcomed into your space and be able to picture themselves there. How could they do that if you still have family photos up on the wall, right? It won't feel like their space at all. They'll have a much harder time imagining themselves if they are having to look past, you know, your stuff. So memorabilia, religious icons, diplomas, certificates, any of that. Personal photos, photos of your grandkids. Don't forget that your home will be shown and seen by hundreds of people online. You don't want all of that personal stuff out there anyway, right? Let's just make it as depersonalized as possible. I've also encouraging you, just from the decluttering standpoint, to take down any of your collections, especially if you have things that are valuable. You're going to want to pack those away before you sell your house anyways, just so there's no temptation to anyone. We want to make sure that those valuable things are taken well care of. And this is funny about the toiletries and hygiene items. I cannot tell you how many MLS listings I see online, and they still have all the shampoo and the squeegee and the body wash all in the bathroom. We don't want a reminder that people actually use this bathroom, right? We don't want any of that kind of infiltrating our consciousness. We want it just to look like a model home. I had a client once who argued with me about taking down. He was a hunter fisher. He had a huge 3-foot shark or something fish that was over his sofa in the family room, and he didn't want to take that down. It was a very expensive taxidermy job, but I just had to remind him that some people were not a fan of, don't like seafood, don't like sushi, and to take that down. So that was an argument I won, and when his home sold for a good price and under good conditions, he was certainly happy. But so these things are all evidenced in our little picture here, the before and after, that we might live this way sometimes, especially with everybody in the same house. But we want to really show the features of your home that your buyer is interested in, the things that they're going to be purchasing, and we don't want them distracted by your stuff. So we want them to see the nice granite countertops and the hardwood floors and the glass backsplash. We want everything that would detract from the presentation to be removed, taken out. And you can see in the bottom photo with just, you know, this photo wall. Many people I see in their homes, they have a photo wall that goes up their staircase. The problem is, not only is it all your personal information out there, but it tends to, you know, close in the space. It makes it look quite cluttered. So I'm going to recommend that anything personal be tucked away. You're going to have to pack it for moving anyways, so might as well do it now while it nets you the best result, right? This is a big one for most people. The decluttering. It's such an important aspect of getting your house ready for sale. We've dedicated an entire seminar to it. It really deserves its own topic. But suffice to say, my measure has been, for every bag you take out of the house, you're going to net $100. You know what? I don't actually know that that's true, but I want to incentivize it for you, because no matter what you do in terms of beautiful upgrades and updating and, you know, designer this and custom that, if we don't actually see it because we're just overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that you have, it's really going to be a lost opportunity. So we have two before and afters, and the one on the right, granted, is more than just decluttering, but it does achieve the goal of being much more visually clean. The lines are cleaner, but let's just start with the kitchen. If you do kind of one of these things is not like the other, you're going to notice that first of all, the counters are cleared off. We have edited the pot rack. We've taken out the island. It looks like it's a little portable island in the middle there with the fruit on it. We've taken that out, again, just to allow for an easier walkthrough, nothing obstructing the flow of traffic. We've taken down the unnecessary wreath. There's only one thing here that I would change in the after, and that's the tea towel on the stove. My eye always goes immediately to that. I don't think anybody needs to have even a tea towel up at the stove, but you can see what a difference it makes just to have the work surfaces clean so that you can really see how much counter space you've got. Now, in the other photo, we've changed the light fixture. We've taken down the gallery wall. Obviously, we've swapped out the dining set and the rug. And this is something that I usually do. I know that you have beautiful rugs in your dining room, but people are not buying the dining room rug. They're buying the hardwood floor. And if this is a selling feature, a lot of times, more than 50% of the time, I ask my sellers to roll up their area rugs. Even a big rug in the dining room, it just presents so much better, because what photographs well and what looks good online are long, unbroken eye lines. So if your sight lines can be long and unbroken, even in the kitchen, I take out the mat in front of the sink, because it's just one more thing to break up the space and pull it in and make it look smaller. So these are things that you can definitely do. You don't have to change even the dining room furniture or the light fixture, but if you just took off the heavy black rug that draws your eye, took down the photos, put those away, you could see immediately how much lighter, brighter, and more spacious. That's what your buyers are motivated by. They want as much space for their money as possible. Okay, now here's our next item of concern, and that is repair. A lot of what we've been talking about in terms of renovation is really not renovation as much as it is, it's been deferred maintenance. That's what people really need to distinguish between renovation and deferred maintenance. People say to me, should I put in a $40,000 granite kitchen? No. Should you replace the roof that is on its last legs? Yes. So repairing things is absolutely essential, and I'm going to tell you why. There's the major thing that you want to do about repairing is because it's going to cost you money if you don't. One of two ways it's going to cost you money. It's either going to cost you money as the buyer is going through and starts tallying up how much everything is going to cost for them to do, and they always round it up. So by the end of that preview of your property, they're going to be saying to themselves, okay, I have to get this house for a discount to cover the cost of all those things that need to be done. They could also decide that they're going to come in with a lowball offer, and at the negotiating table try to use that long list of things that need to be done to get that lowball offer. Or the other thing that happens is that if things haven't been taken care of, after we make a deal, a conditional deal, and they hire a home inspector, the home inspector is going to reveal all of those things that needed to be done anyway, and you're going to have to pay for it either by fixing it then with the pressure and you know, the anxiety of the deal resting upon that, or they're going to ask for a discount again at the price, like a clawback. And I've seen this a lot, and it's sometimes a strategy of the buyer's agents where they'll say kind of mentally to themselves, yeah, we'll pay your number, but then they're going to look to take every $500 or $1,000 off that they possibly can. I've even had buyer's agents who took the list of 4 or 5 things and they wanted it repaired and money off. And so I had to really hold the line and say, we will fix whatever is a health and safety concern, but you know, we're not going to give you any money off the sale price. So buyers agents have all different ways of trying to get the best deal for their client, and I think that's, you know, fair game. It's my job to hold the line and make sure that we've done what we can do to avoid any unpleasant surprises when we're negotiating the deal. The other thing is that you might not even ever get an offer. If your home creates the impression in the buyer's mind that it's just going to need so much work, they're willing to take on 1 or 2 or 3 jobs, but if it starts getting up there and they just think of the time and money, they're going to look for an easier option. Remember, we talked about that buyer being stressed for time and money, and if you just give them too much work, they're going to walk. Okay, so you end up helping the other properties in the neighborhood look like a good deal by comparison. You might be surprised to learn that at any given time, 30% of properties don't sell. They don't sell. They have a 2-month or a 3-month contract with their realtor, and they never sell in that 90 days. And worse, they hardly get any showings. So remember, we said that it's all about a numbers game, and we want to pull as many people in to see your home online, and then motivate them to make an offer. If they don't pay any attention to your listing, then you're not going to achieve the result that you want, which is your home sold. So not everything on the market is in the market. What? Just look at the little graph down there. What buyers are looking for is the best possible condition at the lowest possible price. Makes sense, right? Just like if you were out shopping for a used car, and if you had 5 or 6 or 7 of the same make and model, you'd be looking for the one with the lowest mileage, right? The one that had been all detailed inside and no coffee rings or cigarette butts or any of that kind of stuff. You're looking for the best condition with the lowest price too. So there's nothing super surprising about this. We want to make sure that as buyers are walking through, they're not A, discounting your property, or B, just turning away from it entirely because they deem it too much work. Now, let's just leave that there, because that's the average sale. The average sale. There are times when we sell properties as is, whether that's an estate sale or a power of attorney sale or a bank repossession sale, and we make no warranty about it. We just present it as is. But guess what? You expect to get those kinds of properties at a discount. So the price is already lower than the competition, because that's the only motivation, the only way to incentivize a buyer is to say, if you do the work yourself, you'll save $100,000. Okay, so I can sell a house in any condition, but I can't sell a house in any condition at any price. We have to make the adjustment on the price to make sure that it fits the condition. Otherwise, the buyers walk away and they go for an easier win. Now, where did I go? Okay, so repairs. Anything? I want you to just kind of go through. We're going to send you the slide, and we want to make sure that all the kitchen appliances are in good repairs. The drawers and the hinges, almost everybody, they get to a certain age and the cabinets, don't quite close properly. Maybe it's just a minor adjustment. We don't want any dripping sinks or faucets. The bathtubs and the showers, I already mentioned the caulking. Sometimes it's also the grout. We want to make sure that the walls and ceilings are in good repair. There's not obvious dings or scrapes or holes, of course. Flooring, this gets a little trickier. It's not as easy to repair flooring that's gone wonky, but if possible, we look to the flooring. Now, this is a common one where we have shaky handrails or missing handrails. Lots of people finish their basement and they take off the handrail, and then it becomes like an open staircase, and people can fall out. That's not code. You'll end up having to put a handrail back anyway. Make sure that your HVAC, your heating and your air conditioning are all in good working order. What about your electrical panel? I still see properties that have, what are those called? Fuses. If you have fuses, it doesn't prevent the home from selling, but we just want to make sure that it's up to current code and that it's safe, because that is a health and safety issue, and also sometimes a home insurance issue where homeowners end up having to pay a premium if they have older aluminum wiring or mixed wiring. Okay, where in my house, when I purchased my house that I'm in right now, the main floor was aluminum wiring. Not great, but not a problem. Where the problem is the basement was wired in copper wiring. And the combination, the mixed wiring, was a problem getting home insurance. And when I purchased the home and had a home inspection, that came up, and I negotiated a discount in the price to cover the cost of repairing that. So that happened. Water heater, smoke detectors, garage doors. That's another big one where the garage door is a bit askew, or even just the weather stripping at the bottom is coming loose or is missing. Exterior light fixtures, are they all working? Do they all have light bulbs in them? Here's a big item. It's the roof. If your roof has just a year or two left on it, or lots of times what happens is the valley, it goes more quickly, it wears out more quickly. So you might just need the valley repaired and not the whole house. Or lots of times it's one side versus the other. Or even if you have a little bump out greenhouse kitchen, because they don't get enough ventilation, the shingles on that section can wear more quickly. So you might not have to do the entire roof, but if you know that there is issues with the flashing around the fire, the chimney, any of that kind of stuff, you need to repair it now so that it doesn't cost you later. Eaves and soffit, foundation especially, and drainage. If your property is subject to a damp basement, a leaky basement, that is almost always going to be a problem. It could actually sabotage your sale if you don't attend to it. So I do recommend that if you know about these problems, then fix them ahead of time. So I just want to draw your attention to the little text box there about repairs versus upgrades. So far what we've been talking about is just taking care of the property so that it is up to market standard for presentation, but we haven't gotten into any real conversation about taking out carpet and replacing it with hardwood, or pulling out old blue bathroom toilets or any of that. We're not talking about any of that. We're really just talking about keeping up the property value. And I like that last line there. Think of it this way: upgrades can boost the value of your home. Repairs keep your current value from falling. So that's the number one thing. We want to make sure that we are maintaining property values before we give any consideration to trying to increase. Okay, that's always the best way. If you're interested in making money, your first option always has to be about saving money, right? So let's keep that in mind as we move forward. Now, this is not free and it's not even cheap, but it is the thing that will make the most transformative difference to your home and really broaden the appeal, help it to present well online, and really generate a contemporary aesthetic that will interest your buyers. Okay, so this is not an easy thing when you're living in the house. I know this, but if I was going to spend your money, after all those free things are taken care of and the low cost repairs and all of that kind of stuff, if I was going to spend your money, I would spend it here with painting. And I'm going to get you some real specific before and after examples for next week's webinar. There's lots you can see online. You can even just Google, paint transformation before and after, kitchen, bathroom, living room, whatever. And there are dozens of off-white colors you could choose from. But as you see from our screen, I'm not sure how well it telegraphs to your computer, but the off-white palette definitely. I know it's so ironic. Like when you bought your house, you probably cursed the builder for builder's beige, right? Like the whole house was builder's beige. I would be so happy if your whole house was builder's beige. That's never the problem because we add the color back in when we stage the house. The problem is when we have a forest green bedroom and a sapphire powder room and a scarlet red dining room. Like that whole mixed palette is much harder because people are willing to take on 1 or 2 painting jobs. But if the whole house is one huge project, again, it could turn some buyers off. So we really like to neutralize. This is part of the depersonalizing. Like in the workbook that you're going to be receiving, my line is, this is not the time to express your colorful personality. Okay, I'm happy as all get out if your house is completely boring, neutral gray or beige, or the combination of those 2 colors that we call greige, right? So any of the neutral off-whites, you'll see they have a little bit of a tint behind them. Some of them are slightly green, some of them are a little bit more peachy. So even in grays, we have to be very super careful that when you're choosing a paint color, that if it's too dark, the shadows from the corners where the 2 walls meet, it can really make it quite dark. So always err on the side of a lighter color. And then you're going to see we try to choose finishes that are consistent throughout the house. If possible, I would ask you to return your ceiling to white. I have a bathroom that the bathroom ceiling is not white, and if I was going to list and sell the home, I think it opens it up and it makes a nice clean edge that really makes the wall color stand out. Trim is white, doors are white, baseboards are white. So whatever you can do to return that to white is going to be in your best interest. Oh, yeah, there we go. There's a reinforcement. Now, I'm not dictating to you that you have to paint the entire house. Not at all. But if you were to spend, like you had a limited budget or limited resources just in your willingness to be inconvenienced while your house is painted, always focus on the main floor. Main floors sell homes. So if it's going to be one color on the main floor, but the bedrooms are a little bit more colorful and varied, no problem. Because you got to think, your buyer's going to say, oh, well, it's just one bedroom. I can paint that out in an afternoon, no problem. But main floors, if it's a strong color choice, that could be more problematic. And I'm so sorry, but the last item on the list there, wallpaper. I'm sorry, it's such a pain in the neck to try to get rid of, but I've seen entire homes where every room was wallpapered a la 1991, and it really it does not sit well with buyers. So if we can work on getting or reducing the amount of wallpaper in your home, that's definitely to your benefit as well. Okay, so we've covered what are just the high level touch points. I've given you some things to think about why you should consider getting your home, both in terms of taking care of the deferred maintenance, and then at the end of all that, if you still have energy and resources at your disposal, we start to get into things like painting the house. Next week, I'm going to suggest some specific things to do about flooring and staircases. See, it's all well and good to plan to do, to rip out the carpet in your living room, dining room, or up the staircase, but staircases are a problem. Some suggestions that you can follow for really minimal money, but big impact in kitchens and bathrooms. Okay, so I hope you'll come back for part 2 next week. And then we are also planning into June. June already? How's that possible? We're going to continue our webinars on Wednesdays. These are the 4 webinars that we currently have ready to go. Some of you have attended some of them, If you've ever been and you just want a refresher course, please know that you are always welcome. And you can click on our, go to our website and register there, or send me an email. If you have questions about what you've heard today, I want you to know that I'm always available for you by calling me or texting me or emailing me. I'm happy to answer your specific questions. And then we've also been taking our condo tours virtually too. This is so cool. Yesterday, I think we looked at a total of 8 condos, and they were in some of the buildings that I knew, but it also gave me an opportunity to do research into condo apartments that I haven't been into yet. And it introduced me to a little bit wider range of possibilities. And I really enjoyed learning about those buildings and then passing it along to you. So if you're interested and you think that a condo might possibly be in your future, we don't just look at properties online, which you can do on your own, but I also teach you about buying a condo kind of in bits and bobs as we go through the listings, starting with how to write, how to read an MLS sheet and to just really mine it for a ton of information. Okay, so there's an opportunity to take a virtual tour of the property, and again, no cost or obligation. It's about 45 minutes. And yesterday we saw 8 condos in Richmond Hill. Okay, so that's that. And then a lot of people have questions about what the market is currently doing. How has COVID affected prices? And what is my home worth under these current conditions? Or what do you anticipate it'll be worth? Should I wait until the fall? So lots of people asking those kinds of questions right now. So please feel free to reach out if you'd like to have an updated evaluation of your property. We can do it remotely. We can do it in person, whichever you feel most comfortable with. And as I referenced in the seminar earlier, the number one thing you can do is declutter your home. That will always give you the best return on the investment of time and effort. So why not join our 30-day decluttering challenge, where every day for 30 days, you'll get a small self-contained little task that over the course of the month will make a big difference on how well your home is organized, and get rid of the surplus that you don't plan to bring with you into your new life. Okay, and then finally, we have a Facebook group. We have over 90 members now, and that's so encouraging. This is a great place just to hang out, share some quips and quibbles and activities. We've posted some recipes and all kinds of fun things, just because I have found being at home lonely and boring. So if you have some time on your hands and would like to join us, I want you to know you are most welcome to join our Smart Social Connection group. Okay, so if there's anything else that I can do for you at any time, you know how to reach me. Thank you for being here. We do have a few minutes. We've got about 8 minutes. If you would like to post any questions, I'm happy to hear those now. Oh, let's just see. I've got one question here. Okay, so accessibility features that can be incorporated into a bathroom reno that allow me to age in place for another 5 years, but will appeal to the marketplace. Okay, so number one, let's talk about the bathtub. If you have a home that has 2 full washrooms in it, and you are able to take out the bathtub from one of the 2, that's a recommendation that I can give to you. If the master ensuite, for example, has a bathtub, and then there's also a family 4-piece washroom that the other bedrooms share, I would 100% get rid of the tub in your master ensuite. They have the new curbless shower stalls, which they hardly even have a lip. So if you're thinking of mobility issues in the future where you needed to wheel in with a walker or any of that, make sure that when you organize your glass doors that you have enough swing room. Many people now are not even putting a glass door up. They have they take the width of their bathtub, which is usually like 5 feet, and they only partition off part of the closest to the shower head, and the rest they just leave open with no shower door. So there's like a glass wall, but no actual swinging door. And then you don't have to worry about mobility issues as much. Sometimes there's also a difficulty getting to the basin to wash your hands, where we would want a suspended basin rather than one that has shelving built underneath it. So again, a wheelchair could roll underneath that. There's also some height variation between where you would normally have a sink and where you might want to have a sink a little higher to accommodate a wheelchair. So it's always about the 3 things, of course, the features in a bathroom. It's going to be the shower and getting rid of the bathtub. It's going to be hanging a sink on the wall so that you can wheel under it. And then of course, there's all kinds of safety and grab bars that can be installed to help, especially where the toilet is, right? So you want to be able to get on and off easily and safely, right? So those are the number 1 things I can recommend. And I know that there's a ton of my millennial buyers who couldn't give a hoot if there's a bathtub. It's like you either are a bather or you're a showerer. And some people like me, I love a bath. I could never be without a bathtub, but there's just as many people who don't really care. So don't worry that you're going to turn people off if you get rid of that master ensuite bathtub. However, we still do need to bathe little kids. I don't know, I'm a little bit more ambivalent if it was the only bathtub, whether or not you would take that out. Okay, so that's a bit more of a decision based on the entire value of your home. But that's a definite thing you can plan for, and it will only enhance the value of your home. Any other questions? You can unmute yourself and ask verbally, or you can type it into the chat box at the bottom of the screen. Melissa, would you like to unmute everyone in case there's people who would like to ask a question but aren't sure how to unmute? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, are there any questions?
What house that? Right.
Okay, well, I want to thank you so much. Oh, here we go. Would you recommend investing in hardwood floors in the bedrooms rather than putting in granite countertops in the kitchen? Oh, she asks the hard questions. I don't know. I mean, I know we're going to get to it in more detail next week, but there are 3 levels of flooring. The king or the queen, the platinum is actual hardwood, where we have planks, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. We put it in, it's tongue and groove, it's nailed in place, hardwood. Then there is engineered hardwood, which has a thin veneer of hardwood on the surface. It has a particle board core, and it has some backing on it. It's kind of a tri-ply product. It is the next price point down. We'll call that the next price point down. And then there's laminate. And then the new product that everybody is raving about is luxury plank vinyl. So these are not like laminate. Laminate actually has a photograph of wood grain on the top and then a seal on the top. This is actually solid all the way through, so you can't, it won't nick or peel or warp like laminate can do. So would I put hardwood in the bedrooms? Probably not. But if it was a matter of perhaps doing either vinyl plank flooring or engineered hardwood or a really good laminate, I think I might consider that rather than the granite and the countertops. The problem with the granite and the countertops is that there's just such a variety of color. And I would probably say go very, very plain. My recommendation is always quartz, first of all, rather than granite. I would put in quartz and it would be very neutral, maybe even white with a little bit of a fleck of some other color in it, but very, very neutral. Because I've seen condos, especially where the renovation has been like very strong, bold stone, and I don't think it's broadly appealing, which is the name of the game. Okay, so I think I probably would, in your case, consider putting in something other than carpet in the bedrooms. That would probably be my recommendation. New carpet is also another option, right? Something that was clean and fresh and new, because there's lots of people who they won't tolerate carpet on the main floor, but don't mind carpet in the bedrooms for warmth and quiet and safety. We'll get into that more next week. Any other questions? Well, okay then. Thank you so much for your time, for being here. We have started off in the broad general sense. I've given you all lots of things to consider and to do. And then next week, we'll revisit this in more specific, particular detail. And I hope you will come back for part 2. And in between now and then, be safe, stay home, enjoy the 28-degree weather, finally, and wish that you had a pool. Maybe you do. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you for being here. Bye for now.